So this week we're going to be learning about weather and climate. And this is a good segue because last week we learned about how the atmosphere, the water, and the land all heat up at different rates. So the heating and cooling of the land and the water also helps create different types of weather outside. So we're going to be able to look at that. When you guys get to the first page, I recommend that you download your guided notes and you use them because you can use them for the quiz this week and you can also use them on the module exam. The textbook gives you a little bit extra with this lesson, and we're learning more about science. The big takeaways from this are all of the 4 green headings that we have here. So the first is that science is alive, and it starts with a testable question, and then it grows from there. Science seeks to explain how the natural world works and how it got to be that way. Science explores testable ideas about the natural world and gathers evidence from testing. And science is ongoing and collaborative. Scientists share and build upon ideas with others. Now, the quiz for this week is going to ask you guys a lot about what is a testable question. And I didn't feel like Florida Virtual School gave us the best answers. So we are going to pop over and look at something else to figure out more about testable questions. So during your quiz, you're going to be asked to write or revise a testable question. You're going to have a fill-in short answer question. So let's go over that. Sometimes scientists just like to do explorations, and a lot of times you can think of these also as demonstrations. But other times, this exploring or making observations makes us curious, and we want to be able to ask very specific questions. To answer these questions, we need to be able to carry out investigations. So what is a testable question? A testable question is a question that can be answered by designing and conducting an experiment. So a testable question are always about changing one thing to see what the effect is on another thing. So here are some types of testable questions. Does changing the blank affect blank? How does changing the blank affect blank? If I change blank, will it affect blank? Here's where I recommend that you guys write down these 3 format questions before you go into your quiz. This is where you should be in your guided notes so that when you have to either revise or make up your own, it will be much easier for you. So you may have noticed that these blanks are going to be where our variables come in. So we have the independent variable, which is the thing that I change as the scientist, and then we have the dependent variable, or the thing that we are measuring. So again, an independent variable and a dependent variable have to be in a testable question, very much like a hypothesis. So an independent variable is the thing, again, that is changed by you as the scientist. And a good experiment only has one independent variable. When we have too many, we don't know what's actually affecting the change. We don't know which of the independent variables is contributing to the dependent variable. And the dependent variable is the thing that is being measured in our experiment. And it is the response to the change that you make using the independent variable, which again is why we only want one. So here, the independent variable comes first because we are changing the height of the ramp. And then our dependent variable comes second, and we are measuring how fast the car will go down the ramp based on the height that we changed. Does the temperature of water dissolve? Does the temperature of water affect the time that it takes a sugar cube to dissolve? So let's try to identify the independent and dependent variable here. The independent variable is going to be the temperature of the water, because that's the thing that I am changing. And then the dependent variable is the time that it takes the sugar to dissolve, because that's what we are measuring. What makes a plant grow best? So this is going to be a non-testable question, because there is no independent variable and there's no dependent variable. What is best isn't always going to be scientifically able to be tested. So how can we think of a cause and effect relationship related to plants and growing? This is going to be a reworked version of our untestable question. What is the effect of soil type on plant height? So here we can change out the different types of soil, and then we're able to measure that plant height. So how do rockets work? This is going to be a non-testable question, and in order for it to be testable, we're going to change it to, how does changing the shape of a rocket's fins affect its ability to fly? So our independent variable will be the shape of the fins, and then the dependent variable will be the ability to fly. Another non-testable question is going to be, how do students learn best? And here, do students learn better after or before eating? So our independent variable is going to be the time that the student eats, and our dependent variable is how they do on a test. And the other one, do students learn better in the morning or the evening? Our independent variable is going to be the time of day, and our dependent variable is going to be how the student does on a test. Are cell phones bad? Is this going to be testable or non-testable? This is going to be a non-testable question. Will smaller or larger seeds germinate faster? This is going to be a testable question. Our independent variable is the size of the seed, and our dependent variable is the germination time. How does the length of a helicopter's blade affect the speed? This is also going to be a testable question because we're able to change the length of the helicopter's blade, and then we're able to measure the speed. How do crystals grow? This is a non-testable question. Does the temperature of a classroom affect student performance? So the thing that we are changing as the scientist is going to be the temperature of the classroom. And then the thing we're measuring is the student's performance on tests. So this is going to be a testable question. What types of apples grow in Winchester? So this is just an observation. We're able to go to Winchester and find this out. And finally, how do batteries work in a toy? This is not a testable question. So now you guys should be ready to go for the quiz. So we're going to pop back over and learn more about weather and climate. So the biggest takeaway about this lesson is going to be the difference between weather and climate. So weather is the atmospheric differences that happen on a daily basis, where climate refers to the average weather patterns tracked in an area for at least 30 years. So weather is going to be that daily snapshot. What is the temperature today? But then the climate is going to look at the average long-term patterns that happen. So with climate, you might ask the question, what is the average temperature in Florida for the month of June? In order to help scientists look at weather and climate, a lot of times they're going to make different types of models. Models are really important because they're able to take down a large scientific principle and make it manageable and easier for us to see. So these are two different types of models that can help show weather and climate patterns. So this surface temperature model is actually going to be able to show us temperature over time. So if you guys play this, you're able to see how temperatures have varied throughout the years in different months. You'll notice that almost all the time, the polar regions are cold because they're that dark blue. But then if you look in the middle of the model, you'll see a lot more of these lighter colors, and that's due to the equator, and the lighter portions are getting more direct sunlight, so they are warmer. We also have a rainfall model, and this rainfall model is going to be very similar to the other one, and it's going to be able to show us how rain falls in different typical patterns throughout the year, so people are aware of how they need to prepare. So this map is going to show us the major climate zones around the world. So let's start in America. So America can be described as a continental climate because this area is mostly located in the middle of a continent. They experience extreme changes in seasons, like very hot summers and cold winters. Other places are called tropical, and tropical climates are typically wet and warm. Rainforests are an example because they'll get over 59 inches of rainfall each year. Other climates are described as mild, and mild climates typically have warm summers and short, mild, rainy winters. A good example of this is the climate in the Mediterranean. We also have something called a dry climate, and that gets very little rainfall. So most dry climates will only get 4 to 12 inches of rain a year, and a desert is a prime example of this. Finally, we have a polar climate, and these are the coldest, and they have long winters and short, cool summers. Cold air contains little moisture, so most polar areas are also dry. While you aren't going to need to know these 5 continental types for the quiz, you will need to know them for the module exam. For example, they might describe something like, this is a tropical area. Is it describing climate or weather? So if you have these climate zones written down, you're going to know that that is an attribute of climate. When you get to the end of the lesson, it's important that you open up the Talk Like a Scientist and you copy these over. I would also recommend copying over the testable question stems and the 5 different climate zones. This week, you have an assessment that has some short answer questions. Please make sure that you write incomplete sentences so that your instructor knows exactly what you're saying so you can get all of the points this week. Good luck!